He was so brilliant at it that people later in life, people thought he was psychic.
And the idea is, even in a relationship of a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you have to keep some level of seduction going.
You know, you're falling and you're going to die, and your whole life gets reviewed in a matter of 10 seconds.
And I have many, many examples in the book about lessons on how you can start observing people.
And the idea is, even in a relationship of a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you have to keep some level of seduction going. It's not the same level as when you're first dating, because that would be exhausting, right? But you have to keep a sense that you're not taking the other person for granted, that they're not so familiar to you that you just stop trying. You don't dress nicely anymore. You don't take them to nice restaurants. You don't try and do things that are surprising. You have to keep an element of mystery and surprise in any relationship to keep it going. And if people become too familiar, if you become too familiar to them and you just fall into these patterns, then all of that mystery and spark is gone. So the key in a relationship is to have moments where you surprise the other person. You've been with them for 10 years and suddenly you take them to a restaurant or on a trip that they had no idea you were thinking of, or you say something that's completely surprising to them. It doesn't have to be something expensive. It can just be an action or a behavior that they've never seen before in you. And it's not fake, it's real, but you have to realize that the feeling for the man or the woman that you are being taken for granted, that they know you, they know everything about you, is deadly. It destroys the sexual tension between you, destroys everything else. No? I suppose there could be a justification if you are pretty damn certain they're cheating on you, or if they're like a criminal doing harmful behavior. Maybe. But you should really respect other people's privacy, and the idea that you're going to cross that boundary, I think, reveals something very bad about you. So if you suspect behavior that you don't like, then confront them about it, then ask them about that. And of course, if they're cheating on you, they're going to lie. But I'm trying to help you develop your nonverbal skills. It's so easy to see through a liar. Traditionally, women have this more problem with men, but that's changing, where they feel, their gut tells them that there's something wrong with this man. He's lying, he's cheating on me, he's no good. But their heart, they want to be loved, they want to be in the relationship, so they don't trust their gut, that first impression, and they get into the relationship and then it gets really nasty and ugly. I want you to trust your gut about people. If you feel like there's something sneaky or slimy or not trustworthy about this person, then there's probably something there. And the best thing to do is to try and confront them. And you can tell by the way they talk and the way they react that they're lying, right? Or that they're not lying. But, going into people's privacy and going into their phone, I think is very, very invasive. It's violent, and I don't think it's warranted. I think a lot of it is you're just trying to find out more about them. You're trying to find out more about their secrets and their fantasies, or what they're doing, or if they're on Tinder looking for other mates or something, or whatever. I think you just got to resist that kind of thing and respect people and not feel like you're given license to spy on them in some way. I think it's very dangerous. Yeah, you oftentimes, when you first meet somebody, it's a very strange thing. Because when you meet people for the second or the third time, it's not the same, right? But when you see them the first time, there's a weird energy going on because they're a stranger. And strangers, there's something strange, there's a wariness about them, there's a curiosity. It's a different energy than anything else. And you're feeling something from that person that's different from after you've seen them 2 or 3 times, because after 2 or 3 times, you're not paying attention. You've assumed, this is what they're like, I know who they are. That first time, you don't know that. And those gut feelings are much stronger. You're picking up vibes about them. Something is a little bit off about this person, right? Something about that narcissist, those eyes I was talking about. You pick that up, whereas the third or fourth time, you're not sensitive to it anymore. So yes, you've gone wrong. You weren't paying attention earlier on. Now you're involved with someone who's up to no good.
Take in life, you can use this in your office where you think you know your colleagues, but you don't know them, and they might be having thoughts about you that aren't very pleasant, that you don't want to confront. Step back and start observing them. And I have many, many examples in the book about lessons on how you can start observing people, observing their body language, seeing the subtext behind their words, seeing their patterns of behavior. For instance, you'll notice sometimes, we all go through this, that when we see our boss, we get a kind of body language and a nervousness it's unusual. But when we see somebody else, like a friend, suddenly our face lights up and we're much more relaxed and happy. All people are like that. So you want to see how somebody reacts to you when you meet them, when you come up to them, and how they react to other people. And notice that there's a great difference when they see you and suddenly they're very nervous around you, or they're very excited. That will tell you a lot about yourself and about them. You're not being observant. You mentioned Milton Erickson before we were talking about him, how incredibly observant he was. What he was fascinated with was how incredibly unobservant people are. Well, Milton Erickson is an amazing figure. He's the person who created basically hypnotherapy and was the main inspiration behind NLP. And when he was about 18 years old, he suddenly got polio. And as his polio spread, his entire body was paralyzed. Even the only thing that wasn't was his eyeballs. He could move, he could look at people, he had some ability to move his eyes a little bit. And so I can imagine myself, I have a very active mind. Imagine you're paralyzed in bed, you can't read, you can't watch anything, no television, no entertainment. People can read you stories, basically. But how incredibly bored you'll become and how frustrating, and you can't do anything for yourself. You'd go crazy. So what Milton Erickson did as he was in that state and he was living in his house and people were visiting him, is he decided he would observe people on a much higher level. Now he couldn't say anything, he couldn't communicate because his mouth was paralyzed as well. So all he could do was observe and observe people closer and closer. And so he noticed that as he progressed in that, there's this second language that people speak, and this language is nonverbal. It is in gestures, it is in tone of voice, it is in just your body posture. And slowly, over months and years of being paralyzed in this position, he literally mastered this second language. He could tell from the way his sister moved her hair like that or moved her head that she was feeling some resentment towards her other sister. He noticed, as you said, that there were like 5 different forms of no, that someone could say, no, I don't want that apple when they were offered to it, but they really meant, yeah, I really do want that apple. And so he noticed that there were all these different variations of no, depending on the tone of voice. He could hear people in another room talking about him, and through that, the tone of their voice, he could understand what they were really trying to say about him and the subtext behind the words that people have. And so as people talk and they use words to conceal what they're thinking, their bodies reveal what they're actually thinking behind the words through their nervousness, their tone of voice, their eyes. The eyes and the mouth tell you incredible amounts of information. Milton Erickson mastered this language, and as he got older, he used this in his therapy, where he would have patients enter his room. He became a psychoanalyst. And he deliberately placed his desk at one end of the corner so they would have to walk into the room. And he could understand from the way they walked and their gait, whether they were nervous, whether they were excited, whether they wanted to change their lives or not. He was so brilliant at it that people later in life, people thought he was psychic. He could literally read your thoughts. It was unbelievable. So the point of the story was that humans have this ability to master this second language. Put yourself in the position of our earliest ancestors. I mentioned this earlier. They don't have language, yet their survival depends on getting along with the group and knowing, like, you're hunting and where is that leopard, what's going on. But you can't say anything, you don't have language yet. So your ability to pick up fear in the eyes of a fellow group member or to pick up excitement, your survival depended on it.
It's almost like some of these other things you can kind of explain. You can kind of explain the life review phenomena, where very common in near-death experiences, you're falling and you're going to die, and your whole life gets reviewed in a matter of 10 seconds, but you see everything as if it's passing in hours, everything that happened to you, the good and the bad and what you shouldn't have done. That is very, very common. It can be explained to some degree. Some of these other things where the brain is shutting it down. But the ability to teletransport to another room and see something happening that you couldn't have possibly viewed, I have no way of can you explain that? I mean, I don't know where to go on that. Well, I guess I want to shake people up because I feel like people have become so doctrinaire, so rigid in their thinking. They've become so wedded to a particular metaphor, a particular narrative that has to do with science and computers and algorithms. And they think they're being so rational and realistic, but all they're doing is they're limiting and reducing experience so that it can be explained with a simple statement. But that isn't reality. So I want to blast your brains open. I want to give you like a fire hose. It's just hitting your brain. You can't possibly think you know what's actually going on. It's a mystery. We think we're so certain we know what our world is like. We know what's going on around us. We know why we behave this way, who we are, but we don't know any of it. It's just nonsense. We live in these very narrow interpretations. And so the poet Keats, to quote another countryman of yours, he talked about negative capability, the highest form of thinking, if you want to be philosophical, where you can have two contrary thoughts at the same time and not be in a rush to resolve it, because there is no resolution. Two contradictory things can exist at the same time, which is a lot about what the sublime is. Okay? The need to feel certain, to know what the world is, to know what the interpretation is, to have an answer, to say those near-death experiences, they're actually just these things going on in the brain, is you reducing something so that you can explain it because you're so weirded out, you're so anxious about finding explanations that fit into your patterns. I want to just take a knife and cut that out of you and make you realize that you don't know what the world. Physicists, the smartest people on the planet in that kind of thinking, they've come to the conclusion of how much they don't know, of how truly weird, when you get down to the subatomic particles, how truly weird it is. We can't explain it. Things are dissolving into other things. There's a parallel universe perhaps going on, all sorts of things like that. If physicists are blowing our minds, why should we be reducing everything to a cliche?